Okay, I can share it to my personal Facebook, but not the page, which should not be. Anyway, gotta start somewhere, right? I can do these in the future and figure that part out, right? A group? No, we don't have a group for me to share it to. All right. So, here we are, a minute and a half in. Here we are, a minute and a half in, and I haven't done anything. Okay, sorry about that. But today I wanted to hop on and answer a few more questions. So I did a Q&A the other day, which would have been for day 10. I guess welcome to Vlogmas 2019. This is day 12. And on day 10, I also did a Q&A and I asked you if you have other questions that you wanted me to answer. So I have a list of those. And hello to those who have joined us today. To start off with, someone asked what minerals I use. And there are alpaca specific minerals that are widely used in specifically the US, and it's a brand called Stillwater, and I believe it is mineral 104. If I remember right, it is alpaca specific. This is a company, they have minerals for llamas and alpacas. So depending on what makes up your herd, you can choose the right one for you. But if you just have alpacas, 104 is the best. It's something I do plan on investing in the future. Because it is specific to alpacas, of course, it's the best balance for them. However, it is expensive, as most things are that are specific to alpacas. So what I get is a sheep mineral from Tractor Supply. It's the Do More brand, which is the brand that they carry. Do More brand loose sheep mineral. And you want to get a loose mineral rather than a mineral block, just because of the way that alpacas eat. In the last Q&A, I talked about a salt block, in which I have a salt block that I leave out for the girls, but they don't really lick. They use their lips to get the salt, and they would do the same thing for the mineral, meaning they wouldn't get as much as quickly. And when it comes to the mineral, they're a lot more comfortable with the loose stuff, and they'll do the same thing with their lips, but they'll actually be able to eat it better because it's in that form. And when they come up from the minerals, then they have them all over their lips. They're pretty cute. So other than that, I know Tractor Supply is not everywhere, but if neither Stillwater or Do More is available to you, check with a Facebook group for alpacas, ask in there for your part of the country. Okay, someone asked how many alpacas, llamas, and acres I have. And I had to do a little math here because when I think of numbers, I think of the groups of them because I have to go and count them every day. And of course, it's alpacas and llamas together, all the animals together. And so I had to actually do a little math, write it out, and figure this out. So I have 35 alpacas, 7 llamas, and that's a total of 42 animals. And acres, I also have 42 acres. And hello, thank you for saying hello. So yeah, that's interesting. I have the same number for both, but my acreage, 12 of that is a hay field. And then 1 more acre would be for where the girls' barn is. I have storage there for hay bales and things. So the rest of that is all pasture land, of which the big boys have the by far largest pasture. Now I have, for the girls and the big boys, they have much larger pastures than they actually need. This was not a question, but it kind of goes with this, that when you're planning out alpacas and you want to know how much space they need, when I first got into alpacas, which was 8 years ago, that the rule of thumb I was told back then was 10 alpacas per acre. But as I started working with alpacas, I was like, I really don't think that's enough. Now that is if you have very well taken care of pastures, very lush, high quality grass growing in the pastures. That was a thought of 10 per acre back then. Um, so I questioned that once I started working with alpacas, and I think other alpaca owners have as well, because no one really says that anymore. I tell people 5 to an acre, just as a place to start. And then you have to factor in the quality of your pasture and if they need more, or how much you need to supplement and that type of thing. Because most people do not have like the best grass, the lush grass, always fabulous pasture. In all reality, for most people, that's not the case. So, um, my alpacas do have a lot more space than that. I don't even know. I haven't even factored that out. But I have found that they enjoy moving around a lot. They love the space to even run around if they want, and especially when they're younger, they do play and run around. When they're excited, they tend to run and pronk and that kind of thing. And allowing them space to do that, I find really important. But also when they graze, it's very fun to watch them graze because, of course, they're eating, but they're taking a few steps and they're eating. They're taking a few steps and they're eating. And as a herd, they're all doing this together. They're all moving at the same time. So, you can stay in one place and watch them slowly move. I mean, it's slow, but it's definite like progression. And so the more space they have to do that, the better they are. And of course, the less they're going over the same area and that grass is getting a chance to regrow, right? Um, Next question. Have you thought about AI, artificial insemination? And this was a question that was posted on a podcast episode. I'm sure I was talking about Thor in that one. So it was probably about him and my dilemma of getting him gelded or not, and why I was hesitant to do that. Excuse me. And why I would have liked to have used him for breeding. So artificial insemination is fairly new in the alpaca industry. When I got into alpacas 8 years ago, it was not a thing. And I was told that it was not a thing um, because of the alpaca's reproductive system, that it's different and it's quite unique from other animals. One of the things I know that makes it different is that the females are induced ovulators, meaning a female can get pregnant any time of the year. She does not go into heat. What happens is when she hears a certain sound that the male makes, which we call orgling, that is when she drops her egg. So she can be pregnant, she can get pregnant any time of the year and under any circumstance. She does have a type of cycle, but she doesn't go into heat like you would think of other animals. That doesn't really happen for them. So there was something about that type of system that was difficult to do artificial insemination, because the female had to hear this sound and triggers had to happen from her actually being with the male for her part of things to function properly. However, in the last couple of years, that artificial insemination has become available to our industry, and there was a desire to make this happen because we have a limited number of alpacas, but the fiber is in high demand all around the world. Alpacas can have one baby a year. Their pregnancy is 11 and a half months, and it's pretty rare to have twins. So you pretty much get one a year out of each female. And because of that, the herd grows slowly. So there was an incentive to get artificial insemination happening, um, where you can use quality genetics from a male for more females. Now, in the United States, I found this is very important because the United States is so big. I'm here in the middle. I'm in Nebraska. I'm right in the middle. And if I find a herd sire on either coast that I want to use, add his genetics to my herd, wow, like talk about the expense to get him here or my female to him. Like, it's a big deal. But if artificial insemination was available, and I was able to purchase the sperm and then have, my local vet get it done, that would save me a lot of money, right? And I would have the opportunity to bring in new genetics that previously were completely unavailable to me. So that is incentive to consider artificial insemination. I have thought about it. I haven't really looked into it. I'm not at a place where I'm like going full on strong with like having babies and doing that type of thing. I'm really focused on the fiber that's in my herd, and I take on a variety. How should I say? Like, I don't know. The quality of my animals is varied, and part of that is because I have a big heart for alpacas, and if they're in a situation that I can help, then I just take them on. Like, so I have quite the variety. Something I have thought about though is surrogacy. So along with AI, we now have surrogacy available, because they can now create an embryo and then we can transplant that embryo. Um, I've considered that more than AI because I have a number of females that would make really great moms, but they're not, their fiber is not the quality that I would prefer to multiply. So there are females that I just don't use for breeding at all because I don't want the qualities that she has to be multiplied in my herd. I'm looking for something better or different. Like I do have a specific thing I'm looking for. And if she doesn't have that, then I don't breed her. But I could implant an embryo in her and then she could carry, you know, a baby with genetics that I do want. But naturally, AI and surrogacy cost money, and I haven't really looked into that yet, but I've considered it. And in the future, I am likely to participate in one or both of those. Okay. Oh, someone asked, I guess, a little more personal question about if I'm married or I have kids and that kind of thing. Neither. I am not married and I do not have kids. Um, and when I started this, I was just doing it all on my own. 7 years ago is when I moved to Nebraska to actually do the raising. Prior to that, the alpacas that I owned, I was having them boarded at an alpaca farm in Illinois because I'm originally from Chicago. So my alpacas were originally boarded there, especially during the time that I lived in Korea. When I came back from Korea is when I moved to Nebraska to start this whole thing. And I did it all on my own. I think I mentioned in a previous video here in Vlogmas about my vehicles. Like I started in my car, which I still have. In recent videos, you'd see me driving that again. It's pretty much become a farm car. Um, my main truck has some engine problems right now, so I'm not driving it. I'm driving my car. Um, so yeah, I came with my car and some alpacas, and like I was using my car to transport hay and all that kind of stuff. And it was very hard doing this by myself. I think I've had that question in the past too. As a single female, can you raise alpacas? Yes, you can, but you are going to run into some challenges. Now I'm like physically strong female. I can do a lot of things, and I've gotten better at doing a lot of things. Naturally, the more you use your muscles and you do things, the better you get at it. So I've definitely gotten stronger during this whole experience. I can wrangle, adult alpaca males. I can handle that. But I've also, since working with alpacas, had to go to the chiropractor for like the first time in my life. So, there's a give and take to all of that. Um, my parents stayed living in Chicago and they would come visit me periodically at different times of the year. My mom's job was flexible enough that she'd be able to come and stay with me for a while and do her job here. My dad had to stay, but when he could, he came out. And so they helped me with projects throughout the year. That's when we would do like fencing and like bigger projects that I really couldn't do on my own. But day-to-day stuff I did on my own. And then last year, is when the first of my family started moving here. Now, maybe you asked how I first got here. My dad's family is from this area, and that's how Nebraska came on my radar and how I chose to come here in the first place. But last year, my great aunt and uncle moved here from Colorado, and they owned the family homestead from years ago, and they had been using it as their vacation home. So when my great uncle retired, they moved here last year and they built a new home, and so now they're here and they help me as well. Even though they're older, my great uncle, he's one of these people that he can't sit still. He always has to be doing something. So he's always helping, doing something or other at the ranch, if there's not something to do at his house. And then this year, my dad retired. So that's why you've seen him in some of my videos, because now he lives here. My mom is still working in Chicago, and she's um, making things happen to get here herself. But my dad just moved here beginning of the summer. So he's been helping me with a lot of projects, and that's why you've seen him quite a bit. So since I've had more help, I've been able to do more things, get more things that were on my bucket list done. Um, and it's helped a lot since also my herd grew. Like this year, my herd is almost doubled. Having so many more animals means the chance of things going wrong or things out of the usual happening so much higher. The chance of those things happening is so much higher. So I don't know, um there's always seems to be something or other happening. And yeah. So that answers that question. Anything else? I did want to inform you, and for those of you watching, okay, we're 18 minutes in. So if you're watching this far, see, people who watch towards the end of the videos, I know are my true fans, that you truly care about alpacas and what's going on at my ranch. So this is when I share stuff that I feel like only the family should know. And you may have noticed in recent videos that I have not mentioned Accent, and he did pass away. The video where I walked him over and then I put him in the stall for the night. That night he passed away in the stall. Um, and thinking back, none of his behavior matched with M-worm. And actually, in a couple of videos, I'm going to talk more specifically about M-worm, but I don't think he was infected with M-worm. As I think back, I think he must have had an internal injury, and I don't know exactly what, but I mean, I showed up the next day and he was gone, and he was gone in a manner that is, when alpacas die, their bodies, they're always on their side and their head is curled back towards their neck. That is just like a standard position that you will find them after they have passed. So I have no explanation as to what happened. My best guess is that he had an internal injury, which is why he was acting the way he was, and the other guys were seeing him as vulnerable and taking advantage of him, which is why I moved him in the first place. But then when I put him in with my guys that are recovering from M-worm, he was dominant over them in such a way that none of them were dominant over each other, and his behavior was not consistent with M-worm. So obviously it was something different. So yes, unfortunately he passed. And then the day after that, Rose had passed as well. Remember Rose from early Vlogmas videos when I introduced you to all of my girls? Rose, I believe, died of just natural causes. I do not know her age. I got her from Illinois 4 years ago with no documentation. All I was told was the names of the ones that were in that group. She came with 3 others, and she was pregnant with Riley. She had Riley I think maybe 2 months, maybe not even 2 months after she arrived. And so I don't know how old she was, but thinking back and also looking at videos of her, because now I'm taking video every day, there was nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing that would have made me think anything was going to happen. And again, she was found in the position that is standard for an alpaca who has died. So my best guess there, it was just her time, and it was just a natural thing. So yeah, two less my number. So my number of 42 reflects those two being gone. And I'm thinking back. I need to look at how many I've lost this year. A number of them have just aged and left naturally. But if I had kept all of them, I would have well over 50. Well over 50 in my herd, which is pretty spectacular. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I do have people on live. Hello. I love it when people are watching live. If you have any questions you want me to ask or answer, ask now. Forever hold your peace. No, you can go ahead and write comments down below. When I do a Q&A here, again, I will get to those. I also go back to other videos in the meantime and pick up any questions that people may ask. Um, yeah. So until then, let's see, tomorrow's video is about alpaca coats. So I've had some questions about those too. Something very important to have if you're an alpaca owner, to be aware of. So I'll tell you where I got mine, what they're made of, and things like that. All right. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you on the next video.